Free from fins. Chapter 11. Topsy wasn't able to sneak around to the dungeon as she planned to. Her father saw her out in the hall and restricted her to her room. She had many chambers in her room that she could get out of, but they didn't lead to the dungeon, just to her brother's room and the healer's room. She supposed it would have to wait for the next day when her father would be concentrating on Daniel. At least she could still meet with Princess Nicolette. When 5 o'clock came around, Topsy jumped out of bed and went through her secret chamber to the healer's room. When she got there, Daniel was gone. Their father probably moved him back to his own room. Nicolette stood by the window, watching the sunset. "Princess Nicolette?" Topsy asked. Nicolette turned to face Topsy. "You wanted to speak with me?" "Yes, I think we know how to prove Elsa isn't you or your maid. Tell me, does she ever take off that pearl necklace?" Nicolette didn't even have to think about it. "No, I've been eyeing it myself, thinking how strange it was." "Do you think that's what keeps her looking like my maid?" Topsy nodded. "I do. I also noticed you keep your ears plugged." "Are your other maids?" "Yes, they are. I tried talking to one of them, but they are convinced that she is me when normally they would know the difference between myself and my decoy within a couple of days. My plan is to make sure my father comes before the wedding. He will know and most undoubtedly be able to persuade your father that she is not me. Then, I am certain, I'll be able to safely present myself. With both me and my father, yours would be crazy to deny both of us." "I don't know, he seems to be under Elsa's spell." Nicolette took both of Topsy's shoulders. "Don't worry. Just get your friend out of that cell. As much as I hate this, we will need her help. Now I must get back before Elsa notices." Nicolette started for the door, but then Topsy said, "If things work out, will you allow my brother to marry Bree over you?" "Probably, it does unite humans and merfolk after all. Compared to uniting Amishi and Derwin, it seems far more important," Nicolette said without turning around. Nicolette then walked out. Topsy went back through the chamber and stretched on her bed. Now all she had to do was break Bree out of prison along with Jackson. She always thought about breaking him out before, but now she had a super good reason to. Sadly, Topsy knew she had to wait until tomorrow to do it. She closed her eyes and fell asleep. Dreams rolled on through her mind. The one that woke her up in the morning was of a giant shark destroying a kingdom under the sea and a girl's voice saying, "Wake up." Despite Topsy feeling like she had just fallen asleep, she awoke as the girl commanded. The morning was bright and a servant was in her room preparing her breakfast. Topsy looked out her window, only to see Daniel walking beside Elsa down below. Her stomach dropped when she saw a genuine smile on Daniel's face. Topsy dismissed her servant right away. When her servant was gone, Topsy dressed in a maid uniform she had stolen. Then she took the food from her table and set it on a tray. Now was the time to go feed the wizard. She'd have to be very careful though. Topsy stepped out of her room with her tray in hand. She kept her eyes on the ground. She walked to the staircase that led to the dungeons. She was surprised when she found 7 guards instead of 4 sitting at a table. They all looked up at her. She curtsied. "Oh, I didn't know there were so many of you." One of the guards stood. "Are you the one who's been feeding the prisoner? He keeps begging for more because of you." Topsy bit her lip. "No, this is for you." "I didn't know there were so many on duty, however." They snorted, but they took the food anyway. They began to eat it, complimenting the meal that was meant for a princess. Topsy stood silently as they did. When they were finished, she asked, "How come there are so many anyway?" "Because there's a new prisoner. She's said to be a siren. The king wanted more of us here just in case she got her gag off." "Oh, he should have had some of the women take watch," Topsy said. They all stared at her confused. "Why's that?" You know, their voices don't have as much of an effect on us. Topsy spotted a platter of stale bread. Is that for the prisoner? Yes, but he ain't getting it with a siren in there. I could take it to him. The guards looked at one another. They all shook their heads at the idea. No, he's not even complaining anyway. Topsy held in her dismay as she said, well, if he does, just come find me. Praying that Jackson would start shouting for food, Topsy walked up the stairs. There were no shouts. Topsy continued to the top, walking slowly. Instead of giving up and taking the maid outfit off, Topsy strolled along the halls pretending to look busy. Many times she passed the stairs. On her 15th roundabout, she finally heard Jackson's complaints. A smile spread on her face. Topsy stayed by the stairs, messing around with some flowers set on a table. After about 40 minutes, one of the guards came looking for her. She pretended she was just about to walk away with a pot of flowers. The guard intercepted her. He won't stop. And no one is willing to go in there to beat him or give him food with the sirens so close. Topsy set the flowers back down on the table. I'll do it if that's what you're asking. The guard nodded, so she followed him down the stairs to the dungeon. She grabbed the platter of bread and walked to the sound of Jackson's moaning for food. He looked disappointed when he saw her. It was clear he was hoping for one of the guards. Not you, he said as she laid the food before him. Then Topsy heard Bree's voice. Topsy? She asked. Topsy turned around to see Bree chained in the next cell across from Jackson. Topsy bowed to Bree and said, that would be me. Wait. You're Princess Topsy? Jackson asked. Topsy turned back to him and smiled, you bet I am. So don't be disappointed that I came to help the two of you. Well, did you get the keys or something? Jackson asked. Topsy shook her head, no, but I know how to get at least one of the guards down here. Just pretend you're trying to kill me or something. Then Bree can use her voice and tell them what to do. Bree laughed quietly, you're brasher a princess than I am. Jackson's mouth fell open as he stared at Bree, you're a princess too. My goodness, I had no idea it was that easy for a poor boy like me to find one. Oh, shut your mouth and threaten me. Topsy said, pressing herself against the bars. Jackson reached his hand through and wrapped it harmlessly over Topsy's throat. She screamed for help from the guards. Their plan worked more than well. All the guards came rushing in with their swords drawn, shouting at Jackson to let her go. Bree stood from her cell as they had their backs turned to her. She began to sing. Jackson let go of Topsy. The guard swayed as Bree sang, even though all she sang were notes. When she was sure she had them wrapped around her fingers, she commanded them to set her and Jackson free. The guard with the keys did just that. Once they were out, Bree then said to the guards, now sit back down at the table like nothing happened the rest of the day and tomorrow. Don't check back on us and don't let others through. The guards nodded and walked back to the table like zombies. Topsy smiled at the freed prisoners, so now what? I go find my cow. Jackson declared. Bree smiled, and we go stop a war. I wish you well, Jackson. Topsy giggled, we have to get out of the castle first. Luckily, I know some chambers to the outside. Come on. The girls followed after the guards. Jackson lagged behind and said, why'd you even ask what was next? Topsy walked back over to Jackson and yanked him forward. The three went up the stairs just as the guard sat back down and started to act normal again. Topsy led Jackson and Bree to a secret door that went outside of the castle to the stables. Jackson nodded to the girls, now goodbye for real this time. Thank you. Once Daniel is king, I shall be visiting again. It shouldn't take all that long. Then Jackson kissed Topsy and Bree's hands. He turned away, but he ended up turning back around to kiss the top of Topsy's head. "If things don't work out though, I'll be sure to return for you." Finally, he walked away without turning around again. Topsy touched the top of her head and blushed. "Wow, who would have thought I'd meet a guy who didn't think I was annoying?" Bree laughed. "That's partly because you still have growing to do. And half the boys I know are family," Topsy added. "Now how do we hide you? I honestly need to get back to my room and conceal this outfit. I might even have to burn it." Then her eyes lit up. "You could wear it for now. Come on, we both need to change." Quickly they went back through the chambers and to Topsy's room. Once in her room, Topsy got into a dress for a princess and gave the maid outfit to Bree. Bree dressed in it, tying the apron around her waist. Topsy then stuck Bree's dress in the fireplace. It burned, which was a real shame since it was a beautiful piece of work. They just hoped it burned fast enough. Bree looked in the mirror. Her blue hair was a dead giveaway, but the maid cap seemed to cover most of it. She didn't think she could pull this off for a long time once the king realized she was no longer in the cell. The guards would come looking in the light of the next morning. It dawned on Bree what she needed to do. "Topsy," she said. Topsy looked her way. "I think I need to get a potion from Elsa. I need to become a mermaid again." "Are you crazy? Why do you need to be a mermaid now?" "I have a feeling the only way my father will listen is if I talk to him. Besides, I would be safe in the ocean. They couldn't come after me." "That means we have to steal from Elsa though. Stealing from her is going to be tricky even with Princess Nicolette's help. The potion could be in Elsa's room if she even has something like that ready. Maybe we should have kept Jackson around. She showed the potion to me, and she must have more." "Just leave it to me," Bree said, walking out of Topsy's room. She walked calmly over to Elsa's chambers, avoiding meeting others' eyes when they passed. She then opened up Elsa's door. She was glad to see no one was in the room. Bree searched through the drawers, and she was surprised Elsa's room didn't have some brewing pot in it. Then Bree spotted the closet and some smoke sliding coming out of the bottom. She opened the closet up. It wasn't a pot, but it was the potion she had seen earlier. A smile crept on Bree's face as she slid the potion into her apron pocket. The door swung open, alerting Bree to someone's presence. Bree freaked and hurriedly closed the closet door. She swirled around to see Nicolette staring at her. Nicolette looked down the hall as if watching someone. Bree knew who it was, Elsa. Nicolette then glanced at the window that was open. Bree understood right away. Without thinking how high it was, Bree ran over to the window and jumped out clutching the potion to make sure it didn't break. She'd rather not turn into a mermaid without being close to the water. Luckily, there was a bush to break Bree's fall of 2 stories. It still hurt badly as Bree pulled herself up and limped away to the beach. Time really ticked for her now. Elsa was bound to notice within minutes her potion was gone. If Bree was lucky, Elsa wouldn't check until about an hour or so. That luck would probably be called Nicolette. When other servants came closer to Bree, Bree tried her best to walk normally without limping. She was glad that no one had seen her fall out of the window. Time would have been over if they did. Finally, when she left the castle grounds, she started to run. People stared, but they've seen maids running around all the time. When Bree made it to the beach, she looked around to make sure it was clear. It wasn't, so she moved along the sand until she was a good distance away from the people. Then she decided she would go ahead and swim some ways as a human before using the potion. That way, if anyone was watching, nothing seemed different since it was her bottom half that was changing. She supposed there was the part of a maid going for a swim in her uniform, but she didn't have time to make everything appear like an everyday occurrence. Once she was out where her feet couldn't touch the sand below, she took the potion and unscrewed the cap. She drank it all in one gulp. Pain washed over her as she grew her tail back. Her head went into the water as she thrashed from the pain. When it was all done and over, she looked down to see her tail was back. Removing the maid uniform, her violet top was revealed. She smiled, and for whatever reason, her tail felt much stronger. Without hesitation, she swam for her kingdom. She was going to make her father listen, but she didn't know he was already preparing for war.